Athletes, Coach Blue Robinson here, head coach of Team Addict to Athlete, mental health therapist, and addiction counselor. Today I wanted to take a little bit of a deeper dive into the reasons why on Team Addict to Athlete we practice non-anonymity. When I first started Team Addict to Athlete in 2011, this was a pretty big push. Not a lot of other programs out there were doing anything like Team Addict to Athlete was trying to create. And one of the biggest and most significant aspects of what I wanted to create was to erase the stigma of what being an addict truly is. In fact, I wanted to get rid of that label altogether. I understand the value in it. And for the 12-step programs, it's a significant part. It's about identifying what's wrong so that you can move away from that and become something better. But I've also saw in my own personal therapeutic practice that when we identify ourselves with a negative label, that's kind of all we're going to be. And I always looked at the folks I worked with as more than addicts. I looked at them as champions. I looked at them as daughters and sons and brothers and scholars and artists and all kinds of attributes, not just addicts. But it also became kind of a crutch and an excuse for relapse, for poor behavior, and I wanted to erase that and replace it with things of much greater value. I am statements that would catalyst them into success rather than keeping them stuck in the past. And we got a lot of pushback from this. A lot of folks didn't like the way we were doing it because it was so new and so different. But the whole goal here was to change the stigma on what people thought about that label addict. Because what I found is that people with addictions, people that struggled with addiction, have huge hearts. And I know that may come to a shock to a lot of people out there because it is such a emotional tsunami of experiences that you've had that typically are negative by nature. But what I've noticed is that people that struggle with addiction have very large hearts. And they beat in the rhythm by which they want to take away your pain and carry it because they know what it feels like and they'd rather you not have to carry it yourself. And so what I've seen is people use substances to cover up or try to suffocate an emotional pain or trauma they've experienced. And when they come in contact with others that have the same kind of background or history, they want to take that pain from them too. And pretty soon they're taking everyone's pain, carrying it because they don't want anyone else to suffer. They end up buckling, dropping to the ground where they stand. And in the most unfortunate circumstances, addiction takes their lives. I wanted to change the perception on what that meant. I wanted to erase that stigma and replace it with something of greater value. Thus, addict to athlete. Moving from an addict to an athlete, you're leaving it behind. In fact, even the Roman numeral 2 that we chose to signify the change has deep significant meaning. See, the Roman numeral system doesn't identify 0. Which means you can never be lower than just 1. And that's enough for you to build upon. And when you bring something else in there, team support, treatment, therapy, counseling, whatever it is, 1 becomes 2. And that becomes the foundation by which you can build structure upon. So there's real significance in what we do here on Team Addict to Athlete. It is more than a sober gym. It is more than recreation. It's about a team support, a healing approach where people invest in one another. We're only as strong as our team will allow us to be. On Team Addict to Athlete, no one finishes alone, whether it's in an event or a personal goal you're shooting for. You have the support that you need. And we do recover out loud. We don't hide from this. Being able to advocate for your recovery, becoming a walking testimony, a walking billboard, a walking embassy of your recovery allows other people to ask questions, to inquire how you're doing it because they have a loved one. Because everyone does that struggles with addiction and they want to know how you've done it. Now, as we approach our 14th year on Team Addict to Athlete, I want to give you all a special shout out and a deep sense of gratitude for your service, for your unity, for your willingness to step out of the shadow of anonymity into the light of recovery and healing. On Team Addict to Athlete, we're not doing anything special, but we're doing something very unique. We're not allowing our past to dictate our future. And so on Team Addict to Athlete, you're not an addict. You're an absolute champion. Jump on. I'd love to get to know you. Jump on the website, addicttoathlete.org. Check out our calendar of events, our service opportunities, our free groups. There's no reason to have to do this alone. You've got a team behind you, and we'll absolutely help you erase the past and replace it with things of greater value. Hope to see you at our next starting line.